The officer who gave his life today is a hero. He was protecting this community. He will always be my hero.
An Abbotsford police officer shot and killed in the line of duty. A suspect armed with a shotgun fires on police and flees from this shopping center parking lot in a stolen car.
Moments later, cell phone video captures the moment police ram the suspect vehicle. A firefight breaks out on a busy Abbotsford street.
This is CTV News with Tamara Taggart and Mike Killeen.
Good evening. We have extensive coverage of this breaking and tragic story tonight.
This chaotic series of events began in this shopping mall parking lot right behind me this morning. It started off with a call to police about a suspected car theft. That's where it started, but we want to show you where it all ended now. This is a live look at where the scene ended. The suspect arrested here in a dramatic takedown by Abbotsford police. And we want to give you an idea of the geography involved here. Here's where it all unfolded. The strip mall where I'm standing at is on Mount Lehman Road and Cardinal Road. Police chased the suspect in a black Mustang along Mount Lehman. That's south to just south of the Fraser Highway.
The crime scene is massive, crisscrossing some of Abbotsford's major arterial roadways. It started around the Fraser Valley Auto Mall with a call about a suspected stolen Mustang. The caller blocked in the driver.
Unfortunately, a male suspect emerged from that vehicle and began shooting at the caller and others with a shotgun.
Abbotsford police arrived and exchanged gunfire. One officer was wounded, an injury that would prove fatal. The suspect took off, but police caught up with him nearby at the Fraser Highway. This witness video captures the sound of several gunshots as officers tried to stop the suspect in front of stunned witnesses.
I was parked at the turning lane there, and I seen all the cops' cars run around the side, and then I just seen the cops just open fire on the car.
The suspect had crashed to a stop, hitting an SUV. A number of people were there to see Abbotsford police arrest the suspect.
With Norma Reed.
You're watching breaking news. The latest video into our newsroom late tonight. The body of the Abbotsford police officer killed in the line of duty being transported from Abbotsford to Royal Columbian Hospital tonight.
Someone has a door open waiting for someone to come home, and that person's not coming home tonight. A father, a husband. It's just sad. I have no words.
Tributes for an officer killed in the line of duty.
He's an incredible person who was also a cop. And it transcended through his uniform.
Abbotsford grieves for Constable John Davidson.
Also tonight, how did it happen?
I hear two quick bangs, and I look over and I see the blue pickup truck with the door open and the window blown out.
The chaotic events that led to the deadly shooting.
And armed and dangerous.
John Davidson was the first person in, and away he went, and he died protecting you and me.
That is just one of the many tributes pouring in tonight for Abbotsford Police Constable John Davidson, now identified as the officer gunned down yesterday by a robbery suspect in Abbotsford.
From this growing memorial of flowers and cards to flags flying at half-mast around the province to this powerful roadside tribute last night from his fellow police officers, Davidson is being described as a father figure, an officer who made it a routine to always go above and beyond the call of duty.
This photo taken by a witness and posted on social media. The car was stolen from MSA Ford on Saturday. Workers spotted it at a nearby strip mall and called 911 at 11:35. They boxed the car in, and at 11:47, the suspect started shooting.
They've asked us to stay back because they haven't had a chance yet to look inside.
We watch as they draw their guns, circling the motorhome with Alberta plates, looking for any sign of life. A neighbor confirming off camera that this man, 65-year-old Oscar Arfman, and his RV have been here the past 2 weeks.
As the BC community of Abbotsford honors a fallen hero. And this is the city of Abbotsford as we have never seen it before. Tens of thousands of people are gathering to honor a fallen hero, a police officer shot and killed by a gunman in the line of duty 2 weeks ago.
Want to see how many pins it's on, and I give you the price.
Using hidden cameras, we're putting this locksmith to the test because
I had to buzz myself in.
Of what happened to Siobhan Leslie.
Came home and realized that I was locked out.
And locksmith in Vancouver looked like a deal. $15 service call plus $35 for a house lockout. Maybe more for complex locks plus labor.
So when I heard 35, we thought, amazing, let's go with them.
But
came to my door. It took him 10 seconds, had 2 pins, 10 seconds to get in.
She got billed for $236 for a quick lockpick. And she says the locksmith demanded cash, following her to the bank.
So you're vulnerable, you're desperate, it's an emergency.
It should have cost by their rate sheet, should be $50.
What would this master locksmith charge?
We charge, and we tell people on the phone, $95 to $150. That's the cost to open your door. And we don't care if it's a high security lock.
So we call the number on the website.
15 and 35 and up. It depends if the lock is a problem, depends if the security pins in the lock.
The same deal. More if it's a difficult lock. So let's make it easy for them.
This is the test lock.
A common residential lock.
Easy peasy.
Easy to pick.
Pressure's on.
5 seconds.
Just 4 seconds.
So there's no tricks. Take the pick first.
So easy. With a quick lesson, our producer
I picked it.
picks it in just 2 minutes.
Yeah, are you the locksmith?
So what will happen when this guy shows up?
Okay, I give you the price. How do you pay by?
What do you take?
If you pay by cash, it's not tax. If you pay by credit card, it's plus tax.
No tax if we pay by cash.
Okay, so can you pick it?
I try.
You will try.
Yeah.
So what does that cost?
Okay, why is it 5 pins? Okay, it's 255.
$255?
Yep.
But you said it was 15 plus 35.
35 and up, it's dependent. The lock, it's stuff of file cabinet, mailbox, knife, 3 pins, 4 pins, 5 pins, high security.
What?
So is this
Can he pick it or not?
How will you pay?
I can go see if I have that much cash. If not, I'll pay credit card.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I can start.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Which takes 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well that was easy.
And when he opens the door,
Hi there. Hi. We're CTV. Why are you charging $255?
To pick the lock.
It's not a difficult lock, and it says 15 service call and $35 on the website.
And up. It's dependent of the lock.
Well, that's an easy lock.
Yeah. No, not easy. It's from 5 pins, maybe security.
that's his story, and he's sticking to it. He shows us his security license, a locksmith under supervision. And when he calls his boss,
why are you charging so much?
It's none of your business.
Well, it is our business because we're going to have to pay the price.
Well, you're going to pay it because the customer agreed to pay. No one was threatened on it, for God's sakes, to pay that.
We show the video to Evan Kelly with the Better Business Bureau.
To me, that was absolute bait and switch.
And misleading, Kelly says, but it happens all the time.
Who's going to argue with them at that point if they actually just need to get inside their place?
And when we try to hand over the cash,
we're going to pay you.
Oh, no, I don't want your money.
How many people who buy a new smartphone end up selling their old one, maybe giving it to a family member?
Yes, but simply resetting that old phone to wipe the data may not be enough. And Ross, this could put people's personal information at risk.
We got our hands on a bunch of old phones and put them to the test. Old photos, documents, personal information may have been erased, but as you're about to see, that information can be easily recovered.
Old iPhones.
Have they all been wiped?
Yeah.
Reconditioned phones for sale. We even bought one off the street from a guy advertising on Craigslist. Enter the security guys from Fortinet, who put all these phones to the test.
Yeah, it's scanning the blocks and looking for patterns of that data.
Using a free app to recover data, even though all these phones have been reset.
When you do a reset, the issue is that the operating system just unlinks data. It's not physically wiping out all of the data.
And what's at risk?
Personal identifiable information, data security, passwords, bank account credentials. Hey, who's that?
Bingo, it's me. From an old Android phone I threw into the mix. Personal photos and other information found.
They're never truly deleted off of the drive. Factory reset.
It had been reset.
Erase everything.
So we wipe it again.
Right.
And again, the free file recovery app is able to reconstruct the data.
Just a document here. Okay, let's open it up.
An old TV script from December of 2011.
If I'm not secure, I am organized.
So what's the problem?
If we go to the security settings and we scroll down here to encryption.
It's not been encrypted. And Derek Mankey says older phones are vulnerable.
Older versions of Android operating system, Android version 4, Android version 5.
You need to manually encrypt them.
So we want to do the SD card plus the internal phone storage.
To lock it down.
They're not going to be able to get access to that encrypted data unless they know the PIN code for it.
What'd you find on these iPhones?
So on the iPhones, we didn't find anything.
Because?
Because encryption by default in standards.
The iPhones could not be mined for data. The phones from the resellers were clean too, and as for that phone bought off the street, nothing. But finding data on phones like my old Droid is not uncommon.
People have a false sense of security way too often, I find.
I don't know if I want to see everything that's on there.
I haven't copied anything.
I'll be taking this back.
Okay, no.
Are you getting this?
What else is on?
And I took it back too. It's a good thing I never donated this or sold it. New Android phones now have mandatory encryption, but they always need to be locked down with a secure PIN or password to secure it.
Why were you with a chimp? It looked like you guys were on a date.
We don't want to know, really.
I do want to know.
Okay. That was an old story.
Ah,
Yeah, I had a lot of old photos from old stories I worked on.
You got mine there as well. So
Yeah.
all good. All right, so you've locked it all down, but what about the malware that can hack into it and steal the information?
And that's where Android phones are, again, vulnerable because they dominate the marketplace, and more oftentimes they tend to be hit because the guys who write these programs, they target those systems. So be careful about downloading third-party apps and loading unfamiliar websites. You also might want to consider running an antivirus software program on your phone. There are lots of apps and free apps out there to do that as well.
There you go. All right, good advice. Thanks, Ross.
Well, police call it the Wild West. Shoplifting has become such a problem in some parts of Metro Vancouver, it's now outpacing drug trafficking.
Investigators describe it as a multi-billion-dollar issue that can't be controlled, a crime that preys on the most vulnerable. St. John Alexander reports.
I don't know, it says 12 bucks.
I use them for $5.
Yeah.
You name it, it's here. And goes for a steal. Battery packs.
These are $5 each.
They're 5 each?
I'm selling the price. They're 20 bucks in stores each.
Brand new designer suits. $300 at the shop.
But I want 40 for that.
40 for that and
60 for that.
goods stolen from local businesses and smuggled here. Hastings Street. Police call it Ground Zero. They estimate $50,000 in stolen goods is exchanged here every day. In fact, in some spots, it's now a bigger crime than drug trafficking.
That's how lucrative the resale of stolen merchandise is.
Most of the merchandise is not sold at the local market. Instead, our camera catches well-dressed buyers inspecting, then paying 10 cents on the dollar. Items like razor blades.
These are all 8 blades. How much? 10 bucks each.
Police call the buyer the Fence, a pimp of sorts who encourages drug addicts from the downtown east side to do their dirty work, steal.
Oh, it's about 20 something.
20 bucks in the store.
Over 20.
And then here, what?
Yeah, they just sell them for 5.
They know an addict will do just about anything for a buck.
Eggs, cheese, milk. You should eat that. No, I need money right now.
The Fence will even buy the addict drugs as long as it keeps them stealing. Police call it predatory fencing.
It is the most prolific with a drug-addicted booster because there's a constant need to feed.
The Fence then sells the goods on the black market in pricey condos, basement suites, or Craigslist or eBay. Some is shipped to China, where Canadian merchandise gets top dollar. Other crooks run websites promising to rob anything when an order is made.
And then they'll steal it and ship it to their customer.
The theft is costing Canadian stores billions every year. Vancouver police have 3 officers assigned specifically to tackle predatory fencing. And they've busted enormous operations. But they admit there will always be thieves. Their focus? Take down the fence. Make it hard to make a buck. If there's no money to be had, they won't do it anymore.
They're in good condition. She was just...
Okay, give you an idea of the scene. We were there, and a bus pulled up. A woman got off, and before she even put her feet on the ground, she was yelling out, "I've got toothbrushes, I've got toothbrushes."
No.
And they were gone. That's how rampant it is.
Hey, ma'am, what you doing?
Daycare tragedy in East Vancouver.
It's impossible for families to know where to go to get all the information.
A CTV News investigation into the death of baby Mac. To a CTV News investigation into the death of a toddler at an unlicensed East Vancouver daycare.
The death of the the 16-month-old little boy happened 2 weeks ago, and we've learned this isn't the first time the woman who ran it was in the daycare business.
CTV's David Molko has a story that's raising questions about why BC parents don't have better access to information on the people they hire to care for their children.
Did you know she was running a daycare? No.
But since we first asked her landlords that question, we've now learned the truth. A couple whose child was previously in her care confirming to CTV News that Yasmin Saad, seen here in this blog post, operated an unlicensed daycare at the Kitchener Street duplex, the place where 16-month-old baby Mac died.
And you have no idea where she's gone?
I'd like to know that myself.
The landlords say she's moved out, so we went looking. A search of court records turning up a woman with the same name, phone number, and email address who operated a daycare back in 2010. This small claims lawsuit filed in October 2010 by parents who wanted their money back, alleging she had represented herself as a licensed child care facility, but was not. Court records show Saad, using the first name Susie, paid the $580. The paper trail leads here to West 16th. There's a new tenant now, and the landlord says there's no record of any daycare at this address. But Vancouver Coastal Health said they had a complaint about an unlicensed daycare at that home in 2010. And when they sent someone to investigate, a licensing officer found the operator was not in compliance with the number of children permitted as an unlicensed daycare, and directed them to reduce the number of children in care. For advocates like Sharon Gregson, it raises another troubling question in the already murky world of unlicensed daycare.
It's impossible for families to know where to go to get all the information that they need that might dig up those past claims.
CTV found Vancouver Coastal Health has a searchable database for licensed childcare inspections, but when it comes to the rest?
I'm not sure parents would even know about past history and those red flags.
Police are calling Mac's death not suspicious, but are still investigating, while our calls and emails to Yasmin Saad were not returned.
Hey, Mac, what you doing?
Baby Mac's parents calling for massive reform of BC's childcare system, saying the checks they did and the questions they asked ultimately were meaningless.
All right, David joins us live now. This story is obviously extremely upsetting, and it's really stressful for parents to find daycare. Why can't they go somewhere, a website or something, and get a list of unlicensed daycares?
Yeah, it's a really tough question. And here's the problem, though. Because they're unlicensed, they aren't inspected unless there's some sort of complaint. So also keep in mind, just because they're unlicensed doesn't mean they're doing anything illegal. What's interesting, though, is Ontario has launched a daycare database. You can see it here. Parents can search it. It includes violations of both licensed and unlicensed daycares. We asked BC's Health Ministry why we don't have one here. They said it was an interesting question, and they might get in touch with the folks in Toronto to find out more.
Well, I would hope that, you know, what happened with baby Mac would lead to better rules.
A concerned mother is speaking out tonight in a CTV News exclusive. She reached out to us after learning about the death of a toddler last month in East Vancouver at an unlicensed daycare. David Molko reports on the concern she had years ago about the daycare operator.
Hey, Mac, what you doing?
An uncle and his nephew.
I bite you first.
Their smiles and laughter now just memories. For parents who will never see their son again after baby Mac's sudden death in January at an unlicensed daycare. CTV News confirmed the woman who ran it was Yasmin Saad. She's moved out, but when we followed the paper trail, it led us to a house on West 16th, one health authorities confirmed they had inspected in 2010.
And I heard this name.
Our story jogging another mother's memory.
Yasmin Saad. It was the Olive Branch Family Daycare.
The place Tara King and her husband visited 7 years ago in their search for a daycare for their 9-month-old son. The place where they first met Yasmin Saad.
I walked in and it appeared chaotic. I remember a staircase. I remember there not being a safety gate.
But the biggest red flag...
She told me it was a fully licensed daycare. I asked to see verification of that. She didn't have it.
So Tara King says she walked out the door and crossed the olive branch off her list. And then she took it one step further, sending this inquiry to Vancouver Coastal Health to see if the daycare was licensed. CTV has learned that a licensing officer did find that the daycare had too many children. And when we asked if the inspector had followed up, they wrote, we can't speak to anything that might be related to an ongoing investigation.
I'm a parent. I think all parents worry.
But when King heard about baby Mac's death, her concern turned to guilt.
I raised those red flags. So how is it that someone is able to continue providing for children who are at the most innocent and vulnerable stage in their life?
Police say they're still investigating Mac's death, but there's no indication Yasmin Saad is responsible. Our calls and emails to Saad were not returned.
Up the hill.
Tara King's first son is now 7.
Here we go.
And with her youngest the same age as baby Mac, she wants his grieving parents to know this.
That I'm sorry. That they're brave. And we need to stick together as parents to fight for this. Every parent, every child deserves the right to quality, safe daycare.
David Malko, CTV News, Vancouver.
Also tonight, is healthcare bureaucracy failing a local teen?
I can't get dressed by myself, go to the washroom.
Her painful disorder only getting worse, so why is her treatment being slashed? An Abbotsford woman who lives with a rare and extremely painful genetic disorder has had the level of healthcare she receives reduced by more than a third.
But her condition is actually getting worse, and as CTV's Michelle Murrow reports, the only thing that's changed, her age.
19-year-old Courtney Kajawa can no longer walk like she once did.
Because of the scarring, I can't stand straight. I have to, when I walk, I'm quite hunched over.
Her spine is fusing together. Her fingers already have.
Things will blister and then get open and then they'll scar. So I did used to have fingers, but they scarred, so now they're in a club shape.
Courtney has a rare genetic disorder called epidermolysis bullosa.
It causes her to blister easily and everywhere.
She gets blisters inside of her esophagus. She's had blisters on her cornea.
It means almost 90% of her body must be bandaged, a process her mom says takes 4 hours every other day. She requires care day and night.
I can't get dressed by myself, go to the washroom.
Under the Children and Families Ministry, Courtney was getting 267 hours of help from a care or nursing aide each month. When she turned 19, her needs did not change, but her funding dropped by 100 hours through Fraser Health.
When I asked them, do you know what epidermolysis bullosa is? They said, no, we have no idea.
Fraser Health suggested they find new ways to do dressings to save time.
It's just kind of funny that they have the, I don't know, audacity to say that kind of thing to us.
Fraser Health says it's working with the family. Our client is receiving the maximum amount of support for her current needs under the guidelines. We've committed to providing a reassessment of her needs, and should these have changed, we will ensure she receives the appropriate level of care.
I've been really depressed since everything happened.
Courtney dreams of college and a career as a counselor.
Just to help other people, because I've been through so much in my life, so yeah.
She wants the same help she used to receive. She wants a life where she has a purpose. Michelle Murrow, CTV News, Abbotsford.
I mean, is there anybody watching that doesn't think that Courtney should have the guidelines changed?
No, absolutely. I think sometimes the system's so big, this health system, that people can get lost in the shuffle, and hopefully somebody sees this and
yes,
Courtney gets the help that she needs.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Growing outrage over funding cuts to a woman suffering a painful disorder.
I know for that patient, it's been an incredibly stressful and difficult time.
How the Premier is weighing in.
This is CTV News with Scott Roberts and Tamara Taggart.
Good evening. We begin with growing outrage over how an Abbotsford woman with a rare and painful medical condition is being treated by our healthcare system.
The care Courtney Kajawa depends on for having her bandages changed every other day has been drastically cut simply because she turned 19. As Maria Weisgarber reports, the decision is being called unconscionable.
Courtney Kajawa just wants to be able to live her life to the fullest.
So unfair that people have lives and then all of a sudden they become of age and it has to totally change for them.
She has a rare genetic disorder causing extensive blistering, but when she turned 19 last fall, she lost 100 additional hours of funded healthcare support. She says since she told her story to CTV, the response has been overwhelming.
Lots of people that I haven't spoken to in years have contacted me saying they're sorry about what is going on, and lots of strangers as well saying they're more than happy to help.
It makes absolutely no sense to me that a young girl turns 19 and all of a sudden her needs are different. Healthcare is healthcare.
NDP health critic Judy Darcy calls the situation unconscionable.
I cannot imagine how anyone can rationalize that the government can spend tens of millions of dollars on partisan ads and not have money to support Courtney.
Everybody wants to make sure that patient gets what they need.
Premier Christy Clark says she knows the situation has been incredibly stressful and difficult for Courtney.
Fraser Health is working with that individual right now to try and address that situation. So I hope that they'll have a resolution very, very soon.
Fraser Health has said they're hoping to schedule a reassessment in her case, but say she is already getting the maximum amount of support under their guidelines. Courtney's family is staying hopeful.
I believe that she has overcome and has done really well, and she's gotten to this age that we can overcome almost anything.
Another challenge for a young woman who has already been through so much. Maria Weisgarber, CTV News, Abbotsford.
New hope tonight for a young Abbotsford woman with a rare and painful medical condition. Her treatment hours have been cut by local health authorities, but since CTV News first told her story, that decision is being reconsidered. Michelle Brunoro has the very latest.
Courtney Kajawa and her mom emerged from a lengthy meeting with Fraser Health with a sense of optimism.
It went really well. I think our family was heard, and everyone that was there was really wanting to help our case.
For an exhausting 3 hours, Courtney underwent a reassessment of her needs.
It's very personal, and it gets kind of, I don't know, a bit upsetting because you have to go over all the things that you can't do.
Courtney has a rare and painful genetic disorder that causes extensive blistering. It has caused her fingers to fuse together and requires that almost 90% of her body be bandaged. When she turned 19 last fall, she lost 100 hours of healthcare support each month. It's been a frustrating battle with Fraser Health ever since.
Even, the advocating I have done for Courtney, I've been in tears many times.
But today the family says it feels supported, even by the director of the program that oversees funding levels.
Going through my needs, he was surprised that I got 5 hours. He said you should be getting a lot more.
Paul Gauthier was also at the meeting as an advocate for Courtney.
Courtney has a lot of physical needs, and I think they understand that, and they're going to go back. So I'm feeling positive.
The family is expecting word very soon on whether there will be at least a temporary increase in assistance until a final decision is made. Michelle Brunoro, CTV News, New Westminster.
And heartless decision reversed.
It's been so long that we were without this funding.
2 weeks after she reached out to CTV News, health officials agree to provide more care for Courtney.
A major victory for a Fraser Valley woman who lives with a chronic and painful medical condition. Less than 2 weeks after she reached out to CTV News when health authorities slashed her treatment, the decision is being reversed. CTV's Michelle Brunoro has the story.
I think I'll go get my books next week.
Courtney Kajawa's life has just changed. She's about to start university, something not possible until now.
I'm really excited. I'll be able to go to school in the summer. I'm taking 2 courses at UFE.
Her attitude upbeat after getting the phone call she'd been hoping for.
It's just surreal still. It's been so long that we were without this funding.
Funding to help with her extensive care needs. Courtney has a painful disorder that causes blistering so severe it's fused her fingers together. Most of her body must be bandaged, but when she turned 19, her care hours were slashed by 100 a month and her life goals put on hold. The family felt like no one was listening.
It's hurtful that we were turned down so many times. We felt very hopeless.
CTV took her story to top health officials and the Premier. And now, after undergoing a reassessment, her hours have not only been restored, but slightly increased. Fraser Health will also provide additional funding to make up for the care she was shorted since September.
Did Fraser Health make a mistake in the first place?
Through this reassessment, we gained information that really allowed us to recognize that her care needs were higher, and that's why we moved to increase the funding.
In addition to school, Courtney's been offered work assisting people with disabilities.
Helping advocate for people who are in the same situation as I am And I think that'd be really awesome.
And she hopes her experience will inspire others not to give up.
If they're, in a hard place or a hard time, just remember that, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always good that comes out of bad things.
Michelle Murrow, CTV News, Abbotsford.
It seemed like a heartless decision at the time, so it's nice to see that they've reversed it.
It is. I will say it's nice when they reverse it without media attention.
Yes.
People shouldn't have to get this
Exactly.
much attention to just get what they deserve.
Echoing through the valley at the Abbotsford Fish and Game Club, a story loaded with resilience.
Practice makes perfect.
That's Graham Foote.
I decided to go and try my hand at long-range shooting, which has ended up being a passion of mine.
He doesn't have a military background.
It's just one of those things that I wasn't able to do. Get to compete against them, though.
You're just an IT guy.
Yeah, I'm an IT guy. This is a hobby for me.
Graham has been mastering his craft for just 4 years.
Anytime you can have someone shoot a target that's as big as your fingernail from a kilometer away I personally can't wrap my head around it.
Your longest shot, 1,150 meters?
Yes, 1,150 meters.
Over a kilometer away.
1.1 kilometers, yes.
While his accuracy is mind-boggling, what's even more amazing, Graham has shot up the national ranks with his own unique style.
Yeah, I don't have a hand. I was born missing missing my right hand. It's a birth defect.
He grew up in the War Amps Child Amputee program. Nothing has ever stopped Graham from a new challenge.
My one hand is actually shorter than the other. So when I hold a rifle, I have to compensate in other ways that make it a little bit more difficult.
But he makes it look easy, and that triggers some looks on the range.
They really don't expect it, which is half the fun for me. I think it's hilarious when people are kind of like, they do a double take.
Graham says he is used to those stares. As he stares through the scope, his aim has never changed, to blow away limitations. You don't have to be a firearms advocate to appreciate this marksman's mantra.
I try and say yes to everything if people ask me, you want to try doing this? Sure, let's give it a go. I don't discourage anybody from trying anything based on a physical limitation.
Well, for 30 years now, a gigantic flag has towered over Surrey's Guildford neighborhood. That massive maple leaf has a remarkable history. You may have seen it. CTV's Nafisa Karim has the story of the iconic flagpole and the man who's cared for it for years.
It's hard to miss this giant maple leaf towering over this Surrey car dealership.
Parts Rick speaking.
Rick Steamers is the keeper of the flag.
It's very much the coolest part of my job.
He's been working at Barnes Wheaton GM for 22 years. The flagpole was built for Expo 86. It was moved here in 1987.
They cut it into 3 sections and trucked it.
It held the 1986 Guinness World Record for tallest freestanding flagpole. A trapdoor at the base leads to a ladder.
Here we go.
Inside, it's narrow and suffocating. A 15-minute climb to the crow's nest, but the view from the top makes it all worth it.
So here we are at the top. We're only 2/3 of the way up, though. It is 86 meters from the road to the top of the flagpole.
We take a selfie and head down.
Ah, made it.
In that little basket.
Over the years, the flagpole has seen fundraisers,
Cops for Cancer initiative,
and yearly storm damage.
The beloved flag has been completely destroyed.
We do get complaints, but we can't control Mother Nature.
There's a spare in this bag. It costs $5,000. If it were unfolded, it would measure 40 by 80 feet. It weighs 100 pounds. It's a load Rick is happy to bear, but he retires next month.
A Canadian flag is the most important thing in my life. It really is. That's all I can say.
A labor of love that he'll dearly miss. Nafisa Karim, CTV News, Surrey.
What a fascinating story.
He's emotional about it, too.
He was. Returning to our top story now, as Abbotsford mourns the death of Constable John Davidson, who was gunned down yesterday.
Here's Mike McCardle with the last word tonight on trying to make sense of a tragedy.
You look more than once. You stare for a while. This is not the way it should be. Something is wrong. Something is heartbreakingly, terribly, unbearably, painfully wrong. This is not the way things should be. The only way to bear the pain is to come together, to be together, to stand together, to cry together, to honor together. Yet, even here, minds go numb, breath is shallow, eyes see things not in front of them. That thing, that terribly wrong thing, that terribly, unbelievably wrong, painful thing is still there. As much as we wish, it does not go away. Sharing it is the only human thing we can do. The only way we can almost, but not quite, understand the pain. Mike McCardle, CTV News.
Watching all those first responders was really profound to see
Along the
that.
highway, yeah. Some very powerful images for sure.
Thousands more evacuated as wildfires burn across the interior.
I can see flames in the trees. I'm like, wow, that's close. We gotta get going.
Our first look at the destruction from the worst BC fires in more than a decade.
Also tonight, evacuation centers filling, goods in short supply, and government assistance still not flowing.
Lonely, scary, stressed.
The uncertainty mounting as the fires grow larger.
And
feel how hot that is?
Residents impacted by the wildfires documenting it live.
They have just issued an evacuation order.
The harrowing stories playing out in real time. Online.
This is CTV News.
Breaking news, the worst wildfire season in BC in more than a decade reaches a critical level. This dramatic video taken in the southern Caribou region, driving through the fire zone near 100 Mile House. 14,000 people have now been forced from their homes as flames rip through thousands of hectares. And this is a look right here from CTV's Chopper 9 at the destruction on the outskirts of Cache Creek. Mobile homes, businesses, and cars wiped out by the flames of the Ashcroft fire.
And these photos showing the heartbreak on the Ashcroft First Nation. Nothing but ruins left. This just one of more than 200 wildfires burning right now, and there is no relief in sight from the windy, hot weather. The situation rapidly changing by the hour.
Good evening. We have special coverage of the wildfires in BC's interior over the next hour. I'm Scott Roberts in Vancouver.
And I'm Mi Jung-Lee at Thompsons River University in Kamloops, a community that has been overwhelmed by evacuees. Now here's the big picture at this hour. A provincial state of emergency remains in place. The province has pledged $100 million to help those evacuated. There are at least 218 burning right now around the province. Of those, 10 of those fires are in close proximity to communities. 1,000 firefighters are deployed to the fire lines, with another 300 from other provinces coming to help. And as we mentioned, 14,000 people forced to leave their homes. They're now waiting to see when they can go back home and if they have anything to go back home to. Evacuation orders are in effect for the town of 100 Mile House, including 108 Mile Ranch. The village of Cache Creek and properties in the surrounding areas are also affected. And to the south of there, some areas near the village of Ashcroft are in the evacuation zone.
CTV's Chopper 9 flew over the community of Boston Flats just within the past few hours, and it clearly shows the devastation. CTV's Norma Reed is following this in the Breaking News Center. Norma.
Well, this video has just landed into our newsroom, Scott, and these images, especially for evacuees who are watching tonight, they are hard to watch. Now, we understand that this was a mobile home park. Clearly, the fire tore right through this entire neighborhood near Boston Flats and destroyed nearly every single structure and building in its path. We can still see a couple of homes still standing here, but there are few of them. Cars are totally burnt. Everything in this small subdivision totally gone. Obviously, this is difficult for people to see. These are people's homes, their livelihood, their neighbors' homes, their community just vanished. So again, haunting images that have just come into our newsroom tonight. Chopper 9 flew over Boston Flats late today, Scott.
Crazy.
Okay, difficult but important pictures to see. Thank you very much, Norma.
They don't have a clear picture of how many homes and buildings have been destroyed. We do know the Ashcroft fire has wiped out whole neighborhoods. CTV's Penny Daflos is live in Boston Flats, where she's had a first-hand look at the devastation. Penny, how's it looking out there?
Mijung, a handful of roads have opened in this community, and this house stopped me in my tracks as we were driving past. Look at this. The house is still standing. Everything around it is completely black, and it's not just black. It's when you see the vegetation, you see the detail. It is just turned to complete dust. It is just completely pulverized, and so a lot of people are going to be looking at this house now, displaced residents, wondering if their homes are still standing as well. They are desperate for answers, and they're getting frustrated that some emergency officials are overwhelmed and unable to provide them. It is a shocking sight from the air, the aftermath of one of the province's biggest, most destructive fires this season. Crews continue to fight the Ashcroft fire, which has crossed a highway, split in two near Cache Creek, and now measures a mammoth 6,100 hectares. Displaced residents are at evacuation centers desperate for word.
The fire was just above our house.
Cody Schiffman and his young family fled the 100-mile fire late last night, arriving in Kamloops at 4 a.m.
They were a little scared because last year they watched a friend of ours' parents' house burn down.
The little ones are finding comfort from therapy dogs brought in to deal with the surge of evacuees.
For the kids, it's especially a good distraction because the lineups have been so long.
Frustrating. I think the biggest part is not only the lack of information, but miscommunication. The rumors come minute by minute.
Lance Owasuk is one of the dozens of evacuees sent to Sun Peak Ski Resort when the Cache Creek fire forced them from their homes Friday. They still have not registered here, and the $600 emergency assistance money announced yesterday is nowhere in sight.
A lot of us forgot wallets, purses. A lot of people are on fixed incomes, so let's face it, a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck.
We are moving as quickly as we can on it, and we certainly will just, as soon as we can, start moving out some of that assistance, we will do so.
Not the news these people want to hear as fires threaten to send more evacuees their way, straining the system even further. I am hearing that some people could start being allowed back to their homes as early as tomorrow. Officials are working very hard to make that happen, but when these people do start coming home to their communities, they're going to see that there is still a very active fire scene, smoky hills all around communities like this one here today. It is still looking pretty grim. Mijung.
Thank you, Penny. And there's a smoky haze in Kamloops here as well. Now, further north in the Caribou region, fires are burning all around Williams Lake. It has that city short on some supplies, and it has some people on edge. Now, Brianna Karsten-Smith is live in that community just outside of the city tonight. Brianna, what are the conditions like there right now?
Yeah, smoky here to me, Jung. We're just off Highway 97. The wind has calmed down after it was blowing extremely hard all day throughout the day here today. But take a look. You can clearly see how fire has decimated this land. There's spots still smoldering, and there's power lines that are down. BC Hydro has been on scene trying to restore some of that infrastructure over the last few hours here. Everyone here is hoping that the flames don't return. After strong winds, thick smoke, and swirling ash over the weekend, the city of Williams Lake is on high alert.
Basically hour by hour.
3 major fires are burning in the area, destroying thousands of hectares of land, an unknown number of structures, and forcing officials to scramble.
At this stage, we've been, Kamloops is not accepting anymore, and of course the road is closed from here to 100 Mile anyway, so our evacuation would be to Prince George.
Williams Lake is already packed with residents who fled from nearby towns. At Walmart, the meat and dairy departments are bare, and they're sold out of dust masks. Restaurants have had to close because employees evacuated, and gas stations have run dry.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
Petro-Canada just gave Scott Nelson an extra 6,000 liters of gas in case the city is threatened.
We're a key area for the emergency dispatch, so when people get their yellow sheets and they're being evacuated, the province will give them up to $50 to get them to Prince George.
While some locals are prepared,
my wife worries. I don't worry that much.
Evacuees taking refuge here are exhausted.
Hopefully it'll clear up and
we can go back home.
This couple has already had to run twice.
Lonely, scary. Stress, yeah. I couldn't find my sister, my mom.
Cooler temperatures overnight helped fire crews, but by morning, smoke was billowing again. It has them worried they'll be on the move again.
You never know where the fire is going to come on the highway, and then we're getting out of there, and you can just see the smoke and wonder if I'm going to have a home left.
So, Brianna, what can we expect for the conditions in the next 24 hours?
Well, Mi-Jung, unfortunately, there is lightning in the forecast for this area, both tonight and into the next few days here. With firefighters already stretched thin, that is the last thing crews want. Mi-Jung?
Tense days up there. Thank you, Brianna.
Let's bring in Ann Lou now in the Weather Center with more on the weather situation and the wind. Again, the big story today, Ann.
That's right, Scott. Peak winds today for Ashcroft and Williams Lake. We're close to 40 kilometers an hour from the northwest. They have slowly eased off. Williams Lake, the winds from the west right now, 10 kilometers an hour. From the north for 100 Mile House at 14 kilometers an hour. And for Ashcroft from the west, again, at 7 kilometers an hour only. But we do have a special air quality statement in place from Prince George right down the Okanagan Valley. Because of all these forest fires, lots of smoke in the air. So especially for those people who have breathing problems, it will be very difficult to be outside. Let's take a look at the next 3 days for Williams Lake. It will be hazy as we head through the overnight. Mainly sunny conditions for Tuesday. The winds do ease off. And then on Wednesday, a little bit of a reprieve, a chance of seeing some showers as you head through the afternoon. For 100 Mile House, unfortunately, things heat up as we head into Wednesday. Mainly sunny skies, and the winds do pick up to 14 kilometers an hour. And taking a look at Ashcroft, things stay very, very hot. 28 degrees tonight. It'll overnight temperatures 15 degrees only, and 31 degrees expected for Tuesday and Wednesday. So no reprieve whatsoever for them. Scott?
Okay, thanks very much, Ann.
You're welcome.
The wildfires have forced the closure of a number of highways. Let's give you that information right now. Highway 1 is closed in both directions between Ashcroft and Cache Creek. Highway 5A is closed in both directions at Princeton. Highway 97 also closed from Cache Creek to Clinton and from 100 Mile House to Lac-La-Hache. Meantime, Highway 99 is closed in both directions between Lillooet and Cache Creek. Of course, for complete information on all of the road closures, you can visit the Drive BC website. BC Wildfire Services have issued a campfire ban throughout northern BC, meaning campfires are now banned, really BC-wide, with the exception of Haida Gwaii. Campfires are not permitted in parks, beaches, campsites, and all Crown land. Wildfire Services says the ban is necessary because of the volume of fires already burning across the province and the continued forecast of hot, dry weather.
Federal Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale says BC has made 2 requests to Ottawa, one for military assistance and one for access to the National Emergency Supplies Stockpile.
Like cots and blankets and the human comforts that are required when people are dislocated in an evacuation. There are now 3,000 cots and 3,000 blankets that have been delivered from the Public Health Agency through the stockpile.
Those amenities have already been delivered. Goodale says Environment Canada is also working with crews to track weather patterns, specifically the winds. He also thanked emergency workers for their efforts.
300 firefighters from Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and New Brunswick are heading to BC to help in the wildfire fight, and fire crews from the Lower Mainland are also ready to assist. Crews are on standby and able to be deployed if called upon. 140 firefighters have made themselves available, some with experience in the Forestry Service. Crews who are called upon would help at the Emergency Operations Center and provide some much-needed equipment.
But at this point, when we do arrive, it will be protection of building and structure at this time until we're asked to go on the line and work with the forestry firefighters and follow their direction.
Vancouver Fire also has crews who specialize in slides, flooding, and building collapses. Well, planes and helicopters, of course, play a vital role in attacking these fires from the air, but one big such weapon is not being used at the moment, and the owners of the Martin Mars bomber says the government has been ignoring offers of help. CTV's Binder Sajjan has that story.
The Martin Mars is sometimes considered a firefighting icon. The water bomber can drop thousands of liters in a single drop, yet is currently idle.
The Mars will not be ready until the middle of August. We have ongoing maintenance going on.
Experts say even if it were ready to go, there are limitations.
Because it's so large, the airplane can only pick up from just over 100 different bodies of water in British Columbia.
The BC Wildfire Service says it's focused on more modern and cost-effective planes. The owner of the Martin Mars says newer technology is also on offer.
This is built in BC. We've exported this technology into Australia.
This video shows how it could lead to water bombing at night.
We have a command and control helicopter working with a firebombing helicopter, and we use laser technology and thermal imaging and night vision goggles combined as one unit.
Wayne Colson says this would work best in situations where urban homes are at risk. Still, safety remains a concern.
Our personal opinion is, like everything else, you have to have the proper standard operating procedures.
Anytime you fly an airplane at night, risk goes up, even with technology, night vision goggles and things like that. And again, we've lost airplanes fighting fire during broad daylight. Put us into a darkness situation, a night situation, that risk goes up even more.
The province didn't respond to our questions about the nighttime technology nor Colson's offer. For now, it, like the Martin Mars, will lie in wait. Binder Sudjan, CTV News, Victoria.
Much more coverage on the BC wildfires just ahead, including how you can help.
But first, to other local news tonight. A new video is emerging of the moments after a walkway collapsed in Steveston. Several people on the bridge at the time when it buckled and fell several feet into the water. The latest on the investigation into what may have caused it in just 60 seconds. Dramatic footage is being shared on social media from evacuees caught in the middle of the wildfires. Their stories playing out on social media tonight. That story still to come. And help coming from the people of Fort McMurray, how those who've experienced the devastating effects of Mother Nature firsthand are offering their assistance. That's also ahead on CTV News at 6. A scary experience for a Burnaby family out in Steveston this weekend. The ramp of a popular floating restaurant gave way, sending them sliding towards the water. As CTV's Maria Weisgarber reports, the cause of that collapse is now under investigation.
Some moments of panic for people at a popular floating restaurant in Steveston on Sunday when the ramp leading down to Pajo's Fish and Chips suddenly took a dive towards the water.
It was just one of the most horrifying experiences I've ever been in.
Tina Zanato was near the top of the ramp with her husband and daughter when it collapsed.
All of a sudden we hear this huge cracking sound and we stopped in our tracks. And then before we could even think or do anything, we started sliding down.
That's the broken part there.
The family says when paramedics arrived, there was initially no way for them to access the restaurant. Zanato was eventually helped back up to the boardwalk and taken to hospital. She says she's been left bruised and shaken. All three family members say they sustained minor injuries.
When was the last time they checked that ramp? Like, how can it buckle like that, or why did it buckle like that?
Nobody from the restaurant was available to speak to us on camera at the site, but CTV has been told the cause of this collapse is still under investigation, and there's no word yet on when this location could reopen. The restaurant has been at this site for more than 30 years. Pajo's has now issued a statement saying, "Our thoughts are with those injured and we wish them a speedy recovery. We want to thank our staff, patrons and local first responders for their quick response in assisting those who were on the ramp at the time."
It's terrible. Something like that should never happen.
The Zanato family says they're just hoping it never happens again. Maria Weisgarber, CTV News, Richmond.
To breaking news right now, people living in Chilliwack are being warned about a high-risk sex offender. Norma Reed is following this in our Breaking News Center. Norma, this is somebody that has been in the news before.
Yes, Scott. The BC Corrections Branch says 42-year-old James Conway has just relocated to Chilliwack today. The news coming out late this afternoon. Now, people may remember Conway used to live in Mission. There were protests by many people upset he was living there. We just reached out to the mayor of Mission tonight. Randy Hawes is happy Conway has moved. James Conway Conway is 6'4", 250 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes. His criminal past includes sexual assault and sexual interference of a person under 16. He has 25 conditions. Conway must stay at his residence 24 hours a day. He can't be in contact with anyone under 18. He's not allowed on public transit, and he's not allowed to wear any uniforms, including police, fire, nurse, or security guard uniforms. He's also not allowed to attend daycares, schools, pools, and community centers. If you see him breaking those rules, call police. Again, convicted sex offender James Conway, now living in Chilliwack. Scott.
Okay, thank you, Norma. Vancouver police are investigating a double homicide in the city's West End. Officers were called to an apartment on Morton Avenue at about 5 p.m. yesterday. They discovered the bodies of a 57-year-old woman and a 51-year-old man. Police say they have arrested a person of interest, and those involved are known to each other. Surrey's mayor is weighing in on the gangland shootout that injured an innocent person with a stray bullet. We're told the woman is recovering, but she's also scared and still hurting. As CTV's John Woodward reports, the mayor is now talking tough.
This truck was in flames by the time officers arrived, set on fire only moments after being on one side of a shootout on this residential Surrey street at 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday.
The neighborhood was just kind of freaked out, and we didn't really know what happened. Some of us heard, gunshots. That was the report. And so I'm sure it was some kind of a drive-by.
I had 5, gunshots. Bang, 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 like one after the other.
The other car, a black Hyundai, took off, its bumper damaged from hitting this metal bollard.
The gunshots go off and then saw them fleeing that way, a black car.
It's not clear if anyone in that car was hit, but a woman sitting in this minivan was grazed by a stray bullet.
I can tell you that our investigators firmly believe that she's an unintended victim.
It's a nightmare scenario for Surrey Mayor Linda Hepner, who spoke to that victim today.
I could tell you that she was very frightened, as anyone would be.
The woman, who's visiting from Ontario, is out of hospital and expected to be okay. Surrey has 132 new officers, and shots fired calls are on track to be down 20% from last year. But an innocent victim makes this crime stand out.
When I see these vile people doing this kind of thing to the reputation of the city and to attack an innocent victim, I'm just so furious.
Hepner is asking for more funding to the province's gang unit, a measure supported by those who live here, who realize that any of them could have been hit or worse. John Woodward, CTV News, Surrey.
And back to the wildfires in the interior now. Still ahead tonight, how you can help evacuees forced from their homes, and how residents in Fort McMurray are assisting people in a situation they know all too well. Mi Jung.
And I'll have an interview with the province's chief fire information officer and his concern about how many of these fires are caused by people.
So, Kevin, given the number of fires that have started recently, how many of those were caused by people?
Too many, quite frankly. Any human-caused fire is a preventable fire. A big driver of activity on Friday, when a lot of this came to a head, was lightning, certainly, especially in the central interior part of the province, the Caribou, Prince George area. But there were certainly quite a few human-caused fires in there as well.
What specifically are people doing to start these fires?
I mean, with these fires specifically, I think a lot of the causes are still undetermined at this point. They're under investigation. Generally speaking, though, with human-caused fires, it can be anything from industrial activity, in the backcountry, certainly abandoned campfires, discarded cigarettes, but there's things people don't think about, even when it's this hot and dry. Using an off-road vehicle like a quad or a dirt bike, the exhaust can be hot enough to start a fire. So we just want people to be exceptionally diligent when they're in the backcountry, just given how serious this situation is right now.
Airbnb is encouraging hosts to offer housing to those affected by the wildfires. It's part of a program that they have that does encourage community involvement during disasters, and so far 25 homes are available free of charge. All hosts who participate are covered under Airbnb's host guarantee. Now, if you can't offer up your home, there are other ways you can help. Donations are always needed, and the Red Cross has set up a page. Thousands of dollars have already been donated since the page was set up. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted out the link to help spread the message. On top of what is donated to the Red Cross, the province is promising $100 million in relief funding for evacuees. For a link to the Red Cross donation page, you can head to our website. Now, residents in Fort McMurray understand what people in BC are going through because they went through the same thing just last year.
Absolutely, Mi Jung. They know that help is needed, and many spent the past few days gathering essentials for those displaced. CTV's Amanda Anderson has more.
And waterways where the devastation did happen last year, as you can see all around me.
A community still rebuilding after its own wildfire last year, now pausing to help others.
These are some of our donations.
Fort McMurray residents are collecting donations for those forced to flee their homes in BC.
I remember when we evacuated and seeing, other Canadians doing the same thing.
Coming up, a live interview with some of the thousands who've been forced to flee their homes.
But first, headway in the fight on terror. The Iraqi Prime Minister declares total victory over ISIS in what was a major stronghold for the terror group. And just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water...
Wow, that person's totally right next to us, and it looks pretty big.
A rare attack off Miami Beach.
It went straight towards him and bit his leg.
Next on CTV News at 6.
This is CTV News.
British Columbia is not the only place dealing with raging wildfires. Parts of California are also facing intense flames, but crews are finally getting some help from Mother Nature. Cooler temperatures and warmer, rather calmer conditions are letting them make some progress against the wildfires at opposite ends of the state.
Imagine having to flee from your home with a little baby. I'm going to talk to his mom, Tashina, in just a few minutes. Scott?
The wildfires have forced thousands of British Columbians, some with young children, to flee their homes to safety. Mi Jung will talk to some of those parents at the evacuation center in Kamloops, and we'll have that right after the forecast with Ann Liu. And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, these hot conditions, these dry conditions continue in the interior, and of course the wind is a big story as well.
Yes, that is right, but things have diminished for Ashcroft, Williams Lake, and 100 Mile House. What we're watching right now for the southern interior, severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Elk Valley as well as east and west Kootenay region through the evening into the overnight. And as you can see, some light scattered showers for the Williams Lake area, but they are going to move its way through and really not help that much for that region.
Okay, let's go to Mi Jung Lee now, who is at the evacuation center in Kamloops. Mi Jung.
That's right, Scott. An anxious day for hundreds of people who are registering here so that they can get the support they need when they're out of their homes. Now, one of those people who has had to flee their homes is Tashina Harkness with her little son, Austin, who's just 8 months old. Tashina had to leave Cache Creek Friday. Tashina, how much notice did you have? Take us back to Friday. How much time did you have?
About 5-10 minutes to get our things, get in the vehicle, and get on the road.
How are you feeling?
Lost. I mean, you got 5 minutes to take everything that's important to you, and I grabbed my child and went.
And Austin likes to grab this microphone.
Yes.
So you came and you didn't have much. What did you do to get the help you needed, and how has the community responded?
We went to check in at MacArthur Island, and the people around here are so generous. I needed a playpen. I put it on Facebook, and within 5 minutes, 40 or so responses.
Okay, thanks very much, Mi Jung. And still ahead tonight, documenting the escape to safety. Thousands of British Columbians flee the wildfires and their homes, sharing their journey on social media.
Oh, you can just feel it.
The first-hand accounts still ahead on CTV News at 6.
From Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, victims of the fires are sharing dramatic images of what they're seeing. And people are also turning to social media to offer words of support. Sinjin Alexander has that story.
Oh my God, dude.
We are seeing it through their eyes and hearing the raw, honest emotion.
Holy feel how hot that is?
As they rush from danger. Images captured by the very British Columbians who are living through all of this.
They have just issued an evacuation order for all of 100 Mile House. Freaking terrifying.
They're giving us an idea of the uncertainty and fear, what it's like living under that orange glow.
It's actually really hard to breathe right now.
Tiny lenses attached to mobile phones catch fires just as they spark, often long before they've been reported.
This is bizarre. It's just a ridge of fire.
They also reveal the wonder and relief. When heroes finally arrive,
As you can see, like Kamloops, there's not a cloud in the sky, but that's all smoke. You can't even see the mountains that are right there.
Their posts tell us they've never seen anything like this. They feel surrounded and a little scared that at any moment they too will have to pack up and leave. Pictures capturing perfectly as the fire spreads rapidly. They are still watching, wondering what may come. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Incredible images. Now, an estimated 14,000 British Columbians have been forced from their homes as the province's wildfire situation reaches a crisis that hasn't been seen in years.
Yeah, Mijung, it's still ahead. We will go back to live coverage near Williams Lake, one of the community's hardest hit. Stay with us. Special coverage of the BC wildfires continues right after this.
Our breaking news continues of the BC wildfire situation. I'm at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, which has become a hub for hundreds of evacuees in the Caribou region. Brianna Karsten-Smith is reporting live now from Williams Lake. It's a tense situation there, Brianna, with 3 fires near that community. Bring us up to speed. What's happening there?
Well, we've got some breaking news from here in Williams Lake, Mijung, and that is that we are now under evacuation alert. The entire city of Williams Lake now under evacuation alert. That does not mean that people need to leave immediately. That's when an order is called. Right now, we're just under an alert, which means that people need to prepare. They need to have ID, full tanks of gas, and a bag packed, ready to go. In fact, we've already seen RCMP officers preparing, flying down Highway 97 towards Williams Lake. We've also seen rescue crews fly in, as well as helicopters flying overhead.
Thank you, Brianna. Now let's go back to Scott and Ann. As Brianna mentioned, weather playing such a crucial role in these fires, more than 200 fires across the province. What is the latest for the situation in the Williams Lake area?
Well, the winds have picked up right now as we take a look at that. We are seeing gusts right now at Williams Lake at 13 kilometers an hour, 100-mile house from the north. They're gusting at 22 kilometers an hour, and even stronger for Ashcroft from the southwest at 28 kilometers an hour. Chance of thunder showers through the central interior area. There is a severe thunderstorm warning in place for the Elk Valley area, but tomorrow for us across Metro Vancouver, more sunshine on the way, high UV index as well.
Okay, certainly be keeping a very close eye on the weather tonight and tomorrow. Thanks very much, Ann.